So welcome back. We're now talking about our Conjuration Wizard going from levels 11 through 20. If you've joined us and you haven't watched the first two parts of this build, you probably want to start with the build from levels 1 through 4 because we really discuss the overarching strategy here. So if you haven't seen that part of the video, you will find a link to it in the video description or the comments down below. For everybody else, let's keep going with our Conjuration Wizard. We are at level 10 and I'm going to be moving it up 2 levels at a time now, so let's go to level 12. Level 12 brings us another ability score improvement. Now, I have discussed previously that our options here are increasing our dexterity or feats that I've already taken, or the lucky feat, which I haven't taken yet. So lucky, I think, is a really good choice here, and increasing our dexterity is also a really good choice here. But I'm going to, with this character, take the lucky feat. The times I would use the lucky feat are if I fail an important saving throw, or if I fail an initiative that I really wanted to win, because I've got a really good initiative score here, so I should be winning initiative a lot of the time, but sometimes you just roll terrible. So you could use lucky in an important combat to get another roll, or on a failed important hide roll, because we've talked about how this character uses hide effectively, but we have to be successful on that hide roll or the enemies can target us. So I might use lucky if I was counting on a hide roll and it didn't work out for me. So with these levels, we're going to get 4 selections, 2 preparations. The first one I'm going to take is contingency. And contingency is not something I'm going to be preparing. It's something I'm going to be casting outside of adventuring. And what will I be doing the contingency on? Well, my second selection is going to be Dimension Door, because I haven't taken it yet, and I kind of need it for having that contingency to be as effective as possible. So what normally happens is if I am going to be hit with a certain amount of damage or reach a certain damage threshold, the contingency takes place, activates the Dimension Door that can get me out of danger. The next spell I'm going to take is Soul Cage. It's just a lovely little spell, doesn't rely on our intelligence, and there's a number of different things we can do with it. Whenever a humanoid dies, we can use this spell as a reaction, but we can use it to regain hit points, we can use it to question the soul, we can use it to get advantage on an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw. The ability check I'd be thinking about is initiative, and we can use it to see in areas that the creature had been in previously when it had been alive. So a number of different uses for this ability, and I think it just fits nicely on this character because, again, not requiring our intelligence. And then the final spell I'll take is True Seeing. It's just a good little buff that when you need it, it's the only thing that works. And it lasts for a full hour, doesn't use our concentration, so we can cast this when maybe we have conjured creatures that are doing attacks for us. We can cast a True Seeing, and it's not going to affect that concentration. But our 6th level slot, keep in mind that we might use it on our Conjure Elementals as well if we want an Invisible Stalker. So that's another way we might be using our 6th level slot. So with our preparations, again, we're going to prepare our Soul Cage and our True Seeing, and we don't need to prepare Contingency or Dimension Door because those are the 2 spells that we're going to be using outside of adventuring to set up that contingency. So when we get to 14th level, we get our final subclass ability. This one is pretty good. What it does is it gives you durable summons. Starting at 14th level, any creature that you summon or create with a conjuration spell has 30 temporary hit points. It has been asked me several times, does Find Familiar count for this? Yes, it does. Find Familiar is a summoned creature, so then you will get your 30 temporary hit points. Now, keep in mind, that still doesn't make your familiar overly durable, because 30 hit points plus 1 hit point, it's a huge percentage increase in hit points, but it can often still be one-shotted. A lot of creatures by this level can do that much damage with a single hit. For the most part, at this point, we are summoning 1 creature at a time. We're likely doing Conjure Elemental, or maybe Summon Greater Demon, and in both those cases, we're getting a single creature. But 30 hit points, just remember, like with something like an elemental, you're basically getting resistance on pretty much all kinds of damage. So that's essentially going to be a 60 hit point increase. So at 7th level, we are going to get 4 additional spells and 2 preparations. So the first one I'm going to definitely take a Simulacrum, as per usual. And remember, Simulacrum is something we're not going to be preparing while we're adventuring, so it doesn't interfere with that. The second one I'm definitely going to be taking is Force Cage. Force Cage is like the build up over Wall of Force, doesn't use our concentration, and it can be a bigger area. And we can create gaps in the bar so we can actually do things to the creatures that we've trapped. And again, it doesn't require our intelligence, so this character is just as good at using a Force Cage as anybody else. Then the other spell I'm going to prepare with this character is Etherealness. Because I actually think this works really well with a summoner because it doesn't use our concentration. So we could summon creatures, then we could turn ethereal if we are a potential target of attacks. And then we're safe from attacks, and our conjured creatures are still going to exist. Now, there is no official rule that says that if you change the plane of existence you're in, that you can't concentrate on a spell. So this is 100% legal. But whether your DM wants to house rule it, just keep in mind that some DMs may house rule. They think that if you go to another plane of existence, you shouldn't be able to concentrate. So if that is the case, you need to pick a different spell. But by the rules, there should be no problem with turning ethereal and concentrating on summoned creatures. And so we want another spell that we're not going to prepare. So we want a good utility spell. And I think Teleport is a good choice here. Plane Shift is another option. So in our spellbook, for preparations, we're going to add Etherealness, and we're going to add Force Cage. So when it comes to combat, that Force Cage is a big boost for us because we can cast it even if we are concentrating on a summoned creature. Very, very useful. I mean, we can potentially even have our Fire Elemental take its fire form. It can squeeze through that 1-inch gap because it specifically says it can squeeze through 1-inch gaps into the Force Cage, and then it's sharing that area with that creature, and that creature is going to take fire damage every round while they're fighting this fire elemental. So you can really kind of screw things. Or you may want to re-prepare Cloud of Daggers and throw Cloud of Daggers in there and just wait for something to die. So 16th level brings another ability score improvement, and you probably can guess based on the conversations I've had with each ability score improvement up to now, that now we're going to look at increasing our dexterity score. So a lot of things. Number 1, we're increasing our initiative. Number 2, we're increasing our armor class. And if we are using our light crossbow at all anymore, which we probably are not, but if we did, we're increasing our damage with that as well. We're also improving our stealth rolls. So as per usual, at this level, we're looking at 4 additional spells, 2 additional preparations. And I'm going to take them all as 8th level spells. The first one I'm going to both take and prepare is Maze, because Maze is not relying on our intelligence score. Although there's an ability check to defeat a maze once a creature is in the maze, the DC of that is 20, and it doesn't matter what our spell DC is. So the maze is not impacted by our intelligence at all. And in addition, we are actually better at casting Maze than any other wizard, because unlike any other wizard, we cannot lose our concentration on this spell from taking damage because we have that focus conjuration. The second spell I'm going to take that I am going to prepare is Anti-Magic Field. And now this is a big nuke spell because we're wrecking our own magic as well as somebody else's. But ideally what you want to have is if there's an enemy spellcaster and you just want to wreck them, or there's a magical effect and you just need to bring it down. Anti-Magic Field around yourself will bring up this field that it's going to use your concentration, so we can't do it or summoning anything, but it takes you down and it takes them down. And then ideally, you want to have their movement somehow impaired so they can't just move out of the effect. That leaves us with 2 additional spells that we're not going to prepare, and that will be the Clone spell and the Demiplane spell. And I've talked about both these before. Again, these are both things that we can use outside of adventuring effectively. Clone just to create copies of ourselves, of maybe the other party members, so that if we were to die, we're replaced by the clone. And then Demiplane is a great storage area, mainly, though there's many other uses for Demiplane. If you watch my spells video, I go into detail. Now, generally speaking, I would want to use my 8th level spell slot on Maze. Anti-Magic Field is just that once in a blue kind of thing. But Maze is general enough that I don't mind having most of my eggs in that basket, because Maze we're going to be able to use it pretty reliably. Well, again, anti-magic field, not going to be using it very often, but when you do use it, it can have a huge impact. So when we get to 18th level, we now get Spell Mastery, the ability to cast a first and second level spell over and over again without using spell slots. Now with the second level spell, I only have one spell prepared, and that's Misty Step, and I have lots of slots, so I can use Misty Step a lot. So what I would be inclined to do is take Misty Step as my spell mastery, but then we're going to replace the preparation of Misty Step with another second level spell, so we can use our slots on that spell, and then we can use Misty Step at will. And remember, Benign Transposition comes back whenever we cast a conjuration spell, so we can get back our Benign Transposition as often as we want. We use Benign Transposition, cast a Misty Step, get it back. And as per usual, the first level spell I'm going to grab is Shield, though there is some reason why you might want to consider Fog Cloud. So that brings us into 9th level spells. We're going to get 4 selections, only 2 preparations. And again, we're only going to be casting one of them. I always, as I say, take Wish and True Polymorph because they have good out-of-combat applications or out-of-adventuring applications. So I like having them on my spell list, even if I'm not going to prepare them. One I'm definitely going to prepare is Prismatic Wall. Not a conjuration spell, but I think by far the 9th level spell I'll probably cast the most because I'm concentrating on summoning spells. So Prismatic Wall does not interfere. And now I can cut off the enemies from anyone I don't want them to get to. It is by far the most effective way to control a battlefield in the game. Now for the final option, I'm going to take Gate. For one part, I am a little more inclined to take conjuration spells if they require concentration, which Gate does. Now, there are lots of limitations to Gate. I've talked about it in my 9th level spell video. Basically, you can summon creatures with it or bring them through the Gate, but unless they are already friendly to you, there's no reason why they would do anything for you. But Gate is a reasonably effective way to do planar travel, so there's a good utility use for it there. And then if maybe you do have creatures in other planes that you can bring over, that might be helpful to you. Maybe it's a creature you've summoned before and you have a good relationship with it or something like that. But mainly I would probably be using it, for the most part, utility. So because I'm using it utility, I might want to prepare a different 9th level spell instead. So this is what our spell preparations look like at 18th level. For first level, we have Absorb Elements, Mage Armor, and Shield prepared. Remember, we can do Shield without expending a spell slot. That gives us lots of spaces for Absorb Elements, because Mage Armor is usually only going to use one slot. Though, potentially, you could do Mage Armor 3 times a day and have it up all the time. For second level, I'm going to have 2 spells prepared, Misty Step and Levitate. Misty Step I can do at will, so Levitate is the only thing there that's going to be using up spell slots. We can use that for utility. Technically, we can use it in combat. I wouldn't use it very much in combat, simply because Levitate is pretty minor effect for this level. But certainly, just for utility whenever you want, because you have a number of spell slots, and Misty Step isn't using them up. And remember again, Misty Step will bring back our Benign Transposition, so whenever we use Benign Transposition, follow it up with a Misty Step, get it back. Third level, just one spell, Animate Dead. We can use all our spell slots for it if we want, or we can use our 3rd level spell slots to upcast something else. 4th level, we've got Arcane Eye, Conjure Minor Elementals, and Summon Greater Demon. For 5th level, Animate Objects, Conjure Elemental, and Wall of Force. 6th level, Soul Cage, True Seeing. 7th level, Etherealness, Force Cage, and 8th level, Anti-Magic Field and Maze, and 9th level, Prismatic Wall and Wish. Now, I usually talk about at 17th level, if you wanted to multiclass into something else, that's a good point to do so. With this character, I'm not sure what I'd even multiclass to. I mean, I guess you could do 3 levels of Rogue, but it's kind of redundant, right? I mean, we're not attacking really, so sneak attack isn't doing anything for us. And then normally, the whole reason I would do that is so I could get cunning action, but I can already do, the bonus hide action and the bonus disengage action from a cunning action. The only thing I'm missing is really dashing as a bonus action. I don't really care about that. So I really do think with this case, we're just as well going straight wizard. So we're going to get our final ability score improvement. So let's get our dexterity up to 20. So our dexterity is going to be as high as anybody's. And then we're going to get signature spells. Those are 2 third level spells. We don't need to prepare them. We can cast them once for any short rest or long rest. And so what I would do here is I would take Animate Dead. That's 1 additional Animate Dead we can do. And then I would do Summon Lesser Demons. I don't predict using either of those spells a lot, but Animate Dead I might as well use. And I'm just going to go through and I'm going to take a look at some spells that maybe I didn't take the first time around because I don't see the point in taking more 9th level spells. So I'm going to add in Mind Blank. I'm not going to use Mind Blank all the time, but sometimes if I am expecting to be divined upon or I'm expecting to be enchanted, I would do a Mind Blank beforehand to prepare for that. And I didn't take Plane Shift before, so let's grab Plane Shift now. I do have Gate, but I don't necessarily want to be expending a 9th level slot for any kind of Plane Shift I need to do. And I'm going to grab Create Homunculus. It just gives me one more thing that I can have action economy for. And this character, of course, has lots of things for that. And then finally, we'll grab the Scatter ability. It's kind of a nice way to just move around an entire battlefield to get your allies where you want them and your enemies where you want them. And especially if we have some greater demon or something and we want to make sure it is away from our party, Scatter is another way we can make sure that holds as well. So my final spell list includes Absorb Elements, Mage Armor, Shield, Levitate, Misty Step, Animate Dead, Summon Lesser Demons, Arcane Eye, Conjure Minor Elementals, Summon Greater Demon, Animate Objects, Conjure Elemental, Wall of Force, Scatter, Soul Cage, True Seeing, Etherealness, Force Cage, Teleport, Anti-Magic Field, Maze, Prismatic Wall, and Wish. So that is this character at 20th level. That is the Conjurer build from level 1 through 20. So there are some sacrifices, obviously, in not increasing our intelligence. There's a lot of spells I would have liked to have taken that I avoid taking because I thought if the creatures are more likely to save, maybe I should take something else. So I often took spells that might not be my first choice to make sure that this character didn't suffer from having a lower intelligence. But they did technically suffer because they didn't necessarily always get the best spells. But the spells they did get, I think overall, are still pretty good. And there's spells, again, that I might not normally take. I'm never going to be taking Conjure Minor Elementals with any other kind of wizard. But with a Conjurer, there's good reason why I might want to take it anyways. So it makes more sense to make a character that isn't focusing on intelligence if we're already making those decisions. And again, this character makes big use of their hide ability. Stealth for this character begins at +5, ends at +11. That's not a guaranteed stealth roll, but against most creatures in the game, it's going to be a pretty easy one going against their passive perception. So we are halfway through our build guides, and so next week we're going to be on week 6, where we are going to talk about the ultimate Arcane Trickster, which is our Kenku wizard. So I hope you'll join me then. So until then, I'm going to sit back and relax and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, Optimancers. I'll see you next time.